friends, and welcome to MK's Audio Book Club! This month we are talking about The Secret Diary of Lizzie Bennet, narrated by none other than Ashley Clements. Warning, spoilers within! This honestly was the first audiobook I've ever listened to, and I think it was a good introduction. I actually think Ashley did an incredible job. I thought she had a very good grasp on the story, and a very good grasp on using her own voice. And how about those voices that she did? I mean, like, seriously, she had to do like 20. She had to do people that weren't even in the videos. My favorite was her voice for Mr. Collins, and I also enjoyed her Lydia voice as well. It was interesting to listen to because I kept finding myself thinking, oh, interesting, I would have done Caroline's voice differently, or I would have done Mary's voice this way. And of course she was kind of obligated, I think, to do the voices the way Lizzie did them in the videos, which I'm not sure, don't quote me on this, and forgive me, Ashley, if I am not saying what you meant, but I think she found that, you know, as time went on, obviously Lizzie's perception of Darcy changes, and so I found it interesting how at the beginning the way she did his voice was very like character-y and cartoony like she does in the show, and then by the time that, you know, she kind of comes around to him, she does more of an accurate representation of what he sounds like. And of course the story was very interesting to me. I was curious to see what they did with the story. I wanted to see how things lined up with my own headcanon, and on the whole I was pleasantly surprised. They even included things in the book that were in my headcanon, like in episode 37, Lydia versus Mr. Collins, when Lydia is asked to borrow Lizzie's car. Lizzie says, you know, Mom took away your car privileges for a reason, and Lydia says, I promised I won't do that in there. Which of course the joke is that it's sexy times, but I always thought it would be much funnier if Lydia was actually doing a huge craft project in the back of a car, and they ended up putting that in there, that she had left a papier-mâché lion or something in the back of the car, and it melted, and I was so pleasantly surprised to see my own silly little headcanon included in the book. And I think the thing that I enjoyed the most about the book was seeing the Bennets interact with each other. In fact, my favorite moment of the entire book was during the Wickham fallout with Lydia and Mr. Bennet. Lydia says to him, I'm so sorry, Daddy. And he says, no, my girl, no. It's not for you to be sorry. We'll fix this, you'll see. That made me cry. Listening to Ashley read those parts, I'm very impressed by her because, as you can see, I am not able to get through that without weeping. And I could hear her voice breaking at times, but always in the right sort of way, and she used it very effectively. And it meant a lot to me to listen to it, even all this time later, and to hear it still resonate with her so clearly. That was what I loved most about the whole book, and also about her reading of it, was the honesty that she portrayed in those moments. I thought she did an incredible job with that, and I was myself very happy with what Kate did with that part in the book. I honestly thought the book was just going to be like kind of a retelling of the videos, but there was so much more to it than that, and you really did get to see a lot of moments and interactions between the family and, you know, the people in the story than you got to see in the videos, and I myself really appreciated that. I'm wondering what you all thought of that, and if you felt like it added to the videos. Do you think? Alright, let's go to some of your thoughts and feelings and questions and suggestions. iDarkAngel on Twitter asks if I knew that Lydia was going to go for psychology. No, that wasn't ever something that I knew. That's not maybe what I would have chosen for her, but I can see why they came up with that, and I think if that is what she decides to do with her life, then that's a very good calling for her. But that was not something that I knew beforehand. That was new to me. The 48 hours of worry. A lot of you included this in your thoughts and reactions and want to know what I think about it. To be honest with you, Jane is not my character, so I can't really say yay or nay to that. That certainly was a surprise to all of us, and I see how they wanted to put things in the book that weren't in the video. Pretty Nerd on Twitter says, 2 days, give it a week, and then freak, especially if precautions were taken, which I believe Jane would have done every time. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, maybe. I think it was kind of an interesting choice, but like I said, I can see how they wanted to put things in the book that weren't in the shows, and that's kind of hard when, you know, the whole story's already been played out. What did you guys think of the 48 hours of worry? Do you feel like it was incongruous with Jane's character? Do you think it was a little too shocking? Do you think that it made sense within the confines of the story? I'm curious to hear what you think. Aaron Wirt says, can we talk about Ricky and Jamie never meeting? Pretty Nerd also says, the book definitely changed how I view certain characters. I liked Lizzie more, Jane frustrated me, and Lydia is still my girl. Ellie the Overlander on Tumblr says, Lizzie's whole degree and how she really spent most of her time made a lot more sense in the book. I had a hard time wrapping my head around what she was studying in the videos, but the book clarified that a bit. Obviously, I didn't play Lizzie, and so it wasn't really part of my job to wrap my head around that, but I completely agree. I kind of found myself, as I was listening to the book, being like, oh, that's why that happened. Like, I never really realized during the show about, like, I don't know, I probably should have paid more attention, but her whole independent study and all of that, like, I knew that was going on, but I really didn't know how the mechanics of that were working and how that actually fit into the videos, so hearing her talk about that a lot more in the book definitely helped it make more sense for me. Ellie the Overlander also says, Lizzie's thought process behind getting Lydia that helpful book was nice to have. I felt much clearer about Lizzie's thought processes with the book than I did with the vlogs. I also felt as if I got a much deeper view of their relationship through the diary. I thought it was really interesting to kind of see where she was coming from, not only with that decision to buy Lydia the book, but kind of in just the whole thing. I don't know how Ashley feels. I know it would be a little nerve-wracking to have a book written about your character when you don't really technically have anything to do with that book. But I thought it did a great job of kind of showing where Lizzie was coming from and what she was thinking and her own relationships to the other characters that you don't get in the vlogs. I mean, of course, obviously, the vlogs are from her perspective, so you are getting that, but she's tempering it for an audience, whereas the book is supposed to be her own secret diary, so you're getting a lot more of her own feelings, thoughts and feelings within that, and I definitely learned a lot from that and enjoyed that as well. Learnerd on Tumblr says, what was your favorite element or relationship that got expanded in the audiobook? More Darcy is the obvious one, but I personally loved that we got to see more of Lizzie's and Jane and Lydia's relationship with her father. That was something I missed in the vlogs and was happy to see, or rather hear, present. I completely agree. The interactions with the Bennets, Mr. Bennet in particular, was my favorite part of the book as well, and what I think the book really offered and added to the whole series. I mean, obviously you get Lizzie's costume theater of her parents in the show, but I was kind of surprised at how much of the home life of the Bennets you get to see, and you really get a better idea of what their relationships are, and even with the sisters, like, kind of more of the feeling of what had gone on with them in the years prior, and just a little more fleshing out of those things. I think that was important to me because, of course, when Lizzie and Lydia fought, a lot of people had a hard time seeing it from Lydia's perspective, which is fine, but in my head, you know, this was years and years of resentment that had been boiling up over the surface. It wasn't just this one thing, this one book. It was just the straw that broke the camel's back, and I feel like in the book, you at least got a little more, I mean, Lizzie and Lydia weren't going to come onto the vlogs and be like, let's tell you about that time when we were 6 and this happened. You know, like, it's harder to get that overall feeling, which of course had to be in our heads, but was harder sometimes, I think, to relate to you through the story. So I think the book gave a lot more to that, and also to the relationships with the parents, and just things that you didn't see on screen. I also really enjoyed how much the book was like Pride and Prejudice, which I wasn't really expecting, with the scenes, of course, like the turnabout the room, and at the Gibson wedding when Lizzie overhears Darcy talking about her, scenes that were like taken exactly from Pride and Prejudice and updated, which of course we told you about in the vlogs, but you get to see them happen sort of in real time in the book, and I really appreciated that as the literature nerd that I am. And Ellie the Overlander says, obviously literally everything Darcy, from the bit where Caroline and Lizzie take a walk around the room, to the letter, to their date together in San Francisco. It was really lovely getting to get just a few more details on their relationship growth. I don't have strong feelings about the Lizzie-Darcy parts of the book because obviously that wasn't my part to play, so I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about it. Did you feel like there was enough romance for you? Did you want more? I always loved Mr. Darcy. Colin Firth is so sexy. But now I have such a hard time not getting into the romance, but that's just, it just still feels like my big sister, and it's hard for me to get swept up in it. Of course, I enjoy those parts of the book, but they aren't my favorite, so I'm curious to hear what you all, who I think are very invested in Lizzie and Darcy's relationship, thought about it. I enjoyed it, but again, it just kind of feels like my big sister and her boyfriend, and it kind of makes me feel a little icky. I may be ruined on Pride and Prejudice forever. Oops, that's okay. I think it was worth it. And finally, the Ashley Clements, forgive me for getting your name wrong, on Tumblr says, "Why does she talk so funny? What's wrong with her voice? Is she an alien?" You know, I didn't want to say it. Ashley, you did a great job. We're all very proud of you. Yay, Ashley! Alright everybody, those are my thoughts on the secret diary of Lizzie Bennet, narrated by Ashley Clements. Please feel free to continue the discussion in the comments below or in the reblogs on Tumblr. I want to know what you thought about the 48 Hours of Worry, who your favorite voice that Ashley did was, what you thought about the romance, what you thought about all the extra details. For next month, we are going to be listening to My Brother's Voice, narrated by Maxwell Glick. Download that and get listening, and you can always sign up at audibletrial.com/EMKAYSMILES and get a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. So go do that. Download My Brother's Voice by Maxwell Glick, or not by him, but narrated by him, and let's meet back here in a month for MK Audio Book Club.
Oh, and
Ocean is calling me.
Ocean is calling you.
Just saying.